But yes, this story is by Aldhere, who, yes, I am recording, who you know as Jerry, or not Jerry, as the case may be.
Yes, okay.
Story. Yes.
For us.
And this story is called Letting Go.
Is this a fluff story?
Well, you'll find out.
I guess
It is, it's about 3,700 words of something.
Ooh.
So.
That is probably a story.
Yeah, I can't remember what an average length story is, but it's probably
maybe
a little longer than average.
Yeah.
Maybe. For a one shot.
You need to be on chess.com more, because you haven't been on like 5 days.
Are you talking to the author?
Are you speaking to me?
No, I'm talking to the author.
To the author.
To Aldhere, Jerry, not Jerry.
Yeah.
Gotcha. All right, I'm sure he'll get the message.
Probably.
And then he'll probably try to use you to make me play him. But, yeah.
Well, I would do
That's
it,
just because I would lose so easily, it would make him feel good.
Oh, I am not very good.
I would lose my queen the first move I did with the queen.
The first move you did with the queen.
Yeah, bring her out and then bam.
That's why I don't bring out my queen, and that's usually a bad idea. With all of the chess
There you go.
strategies,
Never bring out your queen.
Try to castle, always move different pieces, all that. I don't do any of that. I don't like castling. It's annoying.
You just move the same pawn up and down and back and left and right.
You know?
Castling is good. That means your king is safe and not vulnerable in the middle of the
A lot
board.
of games I have won because I checkmate a king because they castled and they're stuck in the corner.
I almost got checkmated like that today. I saw it, so I
just
was
because
able
they're
to
in
Well,
the corner.
the important thing is that this story is called Letting Go.
All right.
A small hum filled the otherwise completely silent cavern, resonating higher and higher towards a small opening way up above. Dim light shined down from it, the evening sun struggling to reach the entry of the now empty underground. There in the center of the cave where the light had gathered lay a patch of golden flowers, tenaciously growing despite all odds. A watering can, held by a thin but firm vine, was slowly pouring its content onto it, making sure each of the parched plants received their even share. All of them but one, that was.
The one doing it.
The vine holding the can suddenly shook up and down in a violent fashion, a shout interrupting the previous calm. "It's empty already?" said Flowey. "It's barely even... Ah!" The flower let out frustrated curses, barely refraining from throwing the gardening tool against the wall. He absolutely hated refilling it. The closest water source was halfway across the ruins, and that was just getting there. The way back was even worse. Dragging the now extra heavy container without spilling it everywhere was an arduous task that usually took the better of an hour. What?
get a bigger watering can.
Yeah,
Get a watering can with wheels.
But
I like this story.
the bigger watering can would be even harder for Flowey to carry.
Get a cart. A small cart.
Look, there's probably limited options in the
Probably.
in the
All
ruins.
right, continue.
Yes. Why is it even so hot during summers anyway? Seasons are dumb. A few minutes passed, and the small flower simmered down. Still grumbling, Flowey put the watering can back in the pile of gardening tools he kept next to a broken pillar. He could refill it later. Soft footsteps echoed from the tunnel leading to the rest of the underground, instantly grabbing his attention. He could vaguely see a figure approaching in the dark. "Finally! Took you long enough!" "Sorry." The figure stepped closer to the light, revealing a brown-haired child wearing an apologetic smile. "I'm a bit late." "A bit late," Flowey repeated teasingly. "Well, Frisk, I didn't know that 2 hours was such a small amount of time." Hearing his reply, Frisk simply winced. It wasn't the first time they had come late, but this was the longest wait so far. Flowey didn't push them further for details. They probably had better things to do than come here. It had already been more than a year since the barrier sealing the underground was destroyed. After 1,000 years of imprisonment, monsters were finally able to look forward to a bright future. For the most part. Naturally, discovering an entire race of magical sentient creatures living right underneath their feet was no small shock to humanity. Many were not very happy at the revelation, animosity being a common reaction. Thankfully, there were many supporters, too. The majority remained neutral, however. So far, no major decision had been taken, whether good or bad. For now, at least. Frisk plopped down on the flower bed, right next to the teasing flower. The ground was still humid from earlier, though that didn't seem to bother them at all. "So," they began, "how have you been?" "Oh, I don't know. Maybe the same I've been every single time you've asked on every single visit," Flowey said, clearly annoyed. "Man, you ask the same thing every time. The reason I wait for you to come isn't for me to tell you how bored I am." "You know I'm asking because I care about you." The flower paused. "You shouldn't," he said. "You know I don't feel that back." "Doesn't change the fact that you're my friend." "Doesn't change the fact that it's a dumb way to care for a friend." Flowey rolled his eyes. "You know I don't like it." Frisk's smile turned mischievous. "Well, if I'm annoying you so much, I might as well stop visiting every so often." The flower hissed. "Don't you dare! I would actually get bored to death for real." "Well, I don't want you to die either," Frisk replied, "so that's problematic." "You know, I don't regret any of the times I called you an idiot." Frisk merely raised a bemused eyebrow. "I do have some regrets allowing these meetings in the first place, though." Frisk playfully poked him on the forehead before he could pull back. "Just stop complaining." "Ugh, fine," Flowey ceded. "Can we please change subjects?" "We may, your grumpy majesty." The flower deadpanned. "Don't." "Sorry." Flowey sighed deeply, and then went back to his usual cheerful facade. "So, you mentioned last time that Toriel started to build her school," he said. "Yeah, she finally got all the paper stuff done, so we started laying the foundations. It's going well. And," Frisk stifled a laugh, "Undyne's been helping." "Undine?
Oh, dear.
Burn down her own house, Undine? Helping to build?" Flowey guffawed. "Don't tell me she actually tried to pile drive the metal beams into the ground by herself."
Probably.
"What? No, of course not." Frisk paused. "Not really?" "What kind of an answer is that? She only had the idea. That doesn't count." The flower scoffed. "Somehow that's not reassuring at all." "It's not that bad, actually," Frisk retorted, crossing their legs. "She's been a great help." "Really?" Flowey said, skeptical. "No accidents? No stabbing? No fire? No nothing?" "There's been a few incidents here and there," Frisk said, "but the worst was just her getting a bit too passionate and digging a hole 10 meters deep." And nobody fell in?" Frisk shook their head. "Huh." Flowey tilted his head.
Do that?
Uh,
How does
just
Undyne by herself
Well, maybe they were
dig a
digging.
30-foot thing?
30 meter.
No, that's
10 meters.
Oh, sorry. Yeah,
So like 30.
yeah,
30.
30.
Something
Excuse me,
like that.
meters are
Yeah,
different than yards.
Yes. Sorry.
It's a rough
Roughly 30 foot.
more than 30 feet.
Look,
but
Aldhere's Canadian. We can't hold that against him.
I figured. Well, yeah. I mean, you guys
It's
are
a-
kind of unique for not.
Yeah, it's just a problem that he can't help.
Well,
Well, we're part Canadian.
Oh, right. Anyway, I don't know. She uses
was
spears
digging
to stab the
foundation.
dirt
No, she
away.
was digging the foundation, and then she just got so passionate she kept digging in the
So
sand.
how was she in the hole digging?
Yeah, and then she jumped out.
When she got
She
down
didn't
far
fall
enough,
in.
how did the dirt get out of the hole?
She just flung it skyward,
Yeah.
I guess.
30
She did it with
Sure.
It's Undyne, okay? She's like Andy tall.
Undyne, okay? You.
If anybody could,
So
I
if
dare say it would be
But
Undyne.
if she went down the hole, how would she get out?
Okay, that would not be too hard. She could
Actually,
spear jump.
Sam's.
She
stick
could probably jump
spears in-
30 feet if she had to.
She can stick
I just
spears
picture.
in the thing and just
yeah,
climb up it like a ladder.
She jumps down off of the top of a mountain to start fighting
Yeah.
you.
That is the best part of the fight.
All right.
And then she's like, boom, and then, yeah.
All right, so one of you, if you would like, could write a little story
We already have
talking
so many
about
other stories.
how Undyne dug the 10-meter hole
Sure, that
by accident.
Practice
Well,
jumping
that-
off the mountain, because if you messed up, you could, like, break a lot of things.
I'm sure she
I'm
knew what
good
she was
with
doing.
that.
I think.
Frisk shook their head. Huh. Flowey tilted his head, visibly surprised. I expected Undyne to... I don't know. She's doing her best. Huh. His gaze drifted to the ground, pensive. After a few moments, Frisk, who was similarly thinking of something, seemed to come to a decision and opened their mouth to say something. Flowey beat them to it, however. You want to say that I could be like Undyne, don't you? He guessed, his eyes still on the flower bed. That I could go to the surface and control myself if I did my best. Stunned, Frisk froze for a few seconds, and then answered in a dejected tone. Yes. That's not the whole problem, and you know it. Flowey's eyes went back to the child sitting next to him. Besides, didn't we agree not to talk about that anymore? Frisk looked back defiantly. We agreed that I wouldn't talk about bringing you to the surface, not what you could do on the surface. Isn't that the same thing? No, it's not. Yes, it is. Nuh-uh. Yeah! Ugh. Flowey let out an exasperated groan. Man, you could be such a hardhead sometimes, I swear. The said hardhead proudly took the compliment in stride by sticking out their tongue and blinking in a poor attempt to imitate the flower's signature expression. Flowey,
It's a poor attempt.
well, he's already got the,
He's
I
got
don't
the
know.
Frisk face, and then he just puts out his tongue.
Flowey snickered, unable to stop the grin slowly forming on his face. You are insufferable, you know that? The only answer he got was an amused snort, which promptly burst into full-blown laughter. The flower quickly joined the other child with a rare, genuine laugh of his own. It sounded a bit hollow, somehow. After a while, both of them calmed down. You're right, said Frisk, still wheezing. I am a big, insufferable hardhead. Took you this long to realize, huh? Flowey quipped teasingly. Yeah, Frisk nodded, smirking. Maybe I'm even as bad as you are. Flowey's smile froze before making a face. Oh, come on! Can you not ruin the moment just for once? I couldn't resist, Frisk said. We are in the ruins, after all. A spinning friendliness pellet appeared next to Flowey, at which the human barely stopped themselves from starting another fit of laughter. What is so funny? The flower asked, befuddled. Nothing. It's just... They gestured at the floating pellet. I know you want to appear threatening, but that's not exactly very... Frisk didn't manage to finish the sentence, finally failing to hold back from laughing. Are you mocking me? Flowey said, glowering. Me? Never! Frisk put their hand on their mouth, hiding their grin. I would never mock you, or your very, very menacing pea shooter.
Awesome. Like,
Flowey's expression darkened. Would you like me to remind you of what this pea shooter can do, then? Go ahead, Frisk shrugged. I doubt it would hurt very much.
oh, yeah.
You're not as thorny as you were a year ago. I am warning you. They didn't take the hint. I don't believe that you would actually... In an incredible feat of self-restraint, the furious flower almost let Frisk finish their sentence before hurling the bullet at full force right at their forehead. Frisk let out a pained cry and collapsed on the ground from the hit, their red soul flashing for a split second. They didn't move afterwards. Flowey's mouth curled disdainfully. He hadn't even thrown his pellet with the intent to kill for once. Stop playing dead, unless you want me to actually kill you! No response. Seconds passed. Anger slowly shifted to confusion. Were they not acting? He disappeared underground and reappeared next to their head. Frisk? Still no response. Had he really murdered them? Flowey's face went through a myriad of expressions before settling on an empty, neutral one. He had yet again taken the life of the only person he had called his friend, this time from a bout of anger. He barely even felt anything about it, aside from that small sting of annoyance. Or was it disappointment? He couldn't tell what it was, but he hated it, and he was jumping to conclusions again. Frisk couldn't be dead. If they did, their soul would have been ripped from their body by the magical attack, or at least he would have seen it shatter. It had only flashed. That didn't exclude the possibility of permanent damage, however. Flowey poked their unconscious face. From the few little experiments he had done over some resets, he knew that as long as a monster soul was still held together, the person would survive. Mostly. Did that also apply to humans, though? He had no idea. Flowey carefully expanded his magic field, drawing out the unconscious human's soul to inspect it. It appeared within Frisk's chest, a heart shining a vibrant red. The thought of taking it surfaced, but he shook it off. Flowey's gaze lingered a moment on the thin scar splitting it in two, reminiscing about the fight from back then, before moving on to the much more recent wound. A small crack had appeared on the soul's upper right part, very probably from the earlier attack. It didn't seem like much of a big deal. He had seen Frisk take much worse during their trip through the underground, most of which was from him. Their soul faded as he let go of his magic field. They would be fine. Still, the fact that he had hurt them left Flowey somewhat bitter. He thought he was over this. After a moment of silence, he shook his head. Why do I even care? Serves you right for being such a jerk. A pained voice interrupted his musings. So you do care? Flowey swung to his side to see Frisk looking at him with a pained but happy expression. You! Flowey shouted as vines exploded out of the ground threateningly. You tricked me! You were awake all along! What? No! Frisk paled. I just woke up. Liar! I did, Frisk stammered. I wouldn't do that kind of thing. Flowey leered at them, obviously unconvinced. Frisk sat up, slightly panicked. I admit, I was teasing you intentionally to see how much it would take to make you angry. Flowey's vines crept closer, making them flinch. But that's all, I swear. Silence. Flowey finally gave a small smile. Oh, really? Yes? One of the vines smacked Frisk on the head, hard. Ow! That is one of the dumbest, stupidest, most idiotic ideas I've ever heard! Flowey scolded, absolutely fuming. I could have killed you! I'm almost tempted to kill you right now for being so stupid! Frisk winced. rubbing their twice-hurt forehead. Sorry. Sorry this, sorry that. Is that all you ever say? A single dumb word can't fix what already happened. He let out an exasperated sigh. What were you thinking? Frisk shifted awkwardly. I just wanted to make you realize that you've gotten a lot better at controlling your anger. Well, congratulations, Flowey exclaimed in the most sarcastic tone he could muster. You not only half achieved your goal, but as a nice bonus, you also discovered that I could feel a wee bit of guilt after attacking you and thinking that you died. Boy, aren't you glad? You know what? I am, Frisk said in a sudden outburst. I am glad. It's proof that you've changed. Even if it's only a bit, that's still a huge step forward. You wouldn't have cared at all when I first met you. I tried to make you realize that, but every time I try to mention that you've gotten better, you shut it down or try to change subjects. Flowey blinked in surprise, but before he could think of a retort, Frisk hurried on. You just don't seem to care about yourself sometimes, and it frustrates me that you never want to talk about it. He sighed. And it's the same with any conversations about going to the surface. We're friends, aren't we? So why can't we talk about you ever? Flowey opened his mouth slightly, but in the end simply shook his head. You really, really want me to go to the surface, don't you? Frisk perked up. Of course I do. You deserve better. Flowey was unfazed this time. I don't. Me breaking the barrier was easily cancelled out by all the things I've committed over countless resets. Frisk tried to refute him, but the flower didn't stop there. Furthermore, the fact that I felt sorry then doesn't pardon anything, Frisk. And pretending it all never happened would practically justify everything that I and you did as being acceptable. Even if that's true, Frisk argued, unsatisfied by the explanation, have you ever thought about how I feel? What? You told me back then to be happy with the people who love me, but that's impossible when I'm constantly aware that you're down here alone. Frisk took a deep breath, their voice quivering. Do you have any idea how many nightmares I have had after you almost froze to death last winter? I told you to forget about me. Well, I'm sorry, but that's just not happening, Frisk said, crossing their arms. Flowey was at a loss for words. That is just selfish of you, Frisk. Can't you even respect my last wish? I just want to disappear. The human fell quiet before asking, If that's really what you want, then why haven't you? The last words were left unsaid. Above, on the surface, the sun started to set. The cave's illumination gradually began to dim, casting both fallen monster and human in darkness. In the end, Frisk stood up. You're going? They nodded reluctantly. Mom'll worry if I don't get back soon. Hesitating, they add, Can I still come for next time's meeting? Silence was the only answer they received. Frisk clenched their fists. Whether they were frustrated at themselves, Flowey, or something else, even they couldn't tell. But ultimately, the human turned around and walked away. I'll go, before coming to a screeching halt. Frisk looked back at him, astonished. Did you? You know what I said, Flowey scoffed. I'm not going to repeat myself. Elated and yet incredulous, Frisk hurriedly walked over to the flower. You changed your mind? He rolled his eyes. Duh! Obviously! Why? Long story short, Flowey gave Frisk a long, hard look. It's because you're an idiot hardhead, unsurprisingly. Frisk froze, confused. I just can't seem to drive it into your ridiculously thick skull to stop trying. Even after risking your life, I know for a fact that you haven't learned a thing. He sneered. What's next, Frisk? Are you going to risk your life even more? Or mine? Or your friends? You can't afford to act this recklessly now. Resetting is not an option anymore. Frisk nodded bitterly, much of their earlier enthusiasm gone. You're right. I'll be more careful. Though, they suddenly smiled. There's another reason, isn't there? Flowey raised an eyebrow. What makes you think that? Just a guess.
Flowey has eyebrows.
He can.
The human winked, finger gunning at him. We've gotten to know each other a lot over the past year, after all. Flowey's face scrunched up. Ew, stop that! Rude. Frisk dramatically put their hand on their chest. That hurt my poor feelings. Ha! I doubt it. But you're right about the other reason. He paused, looking down at the flower bed. Simply put, I want to let go. Let go? Frisk repeated, frowning. Our earlier conversation made me realize that no matter how much I want to truly disappear, I can't. Flowey chuckled dryly. Even after all this time, I just can't do it. There's a part of me that clings to life relentlessly. He looked back at Frisk. Let's be honest. The reason I decided to tend these flowers was to eventually join Kara in the grave, to bring closure to our story once and for all. You should have realized that by now. The statement clearly made Frisk uncomfortable. I had doubts. I wasn't sure. We both know that won't be happening, however, Flowey continued. So, what then? Should I stay down here forever, talking to myself, reflecting on everything that's gone wrong in my life over and over and over again? He took a few seconds to collect himself. If it wasn't for your visits, I think I might have started losing myself again. He wanted to add something, but was seemingly at a loss, the words refusing to come out. Finally, after many attempts, Flowey managed to say it. Thank you. Frisk beamed. It's the least I could do for my friend. The flower was stumped for a while, not really knowing how to proceed from there.
He doesn't quite have a stump.
Anyway, Flowey coughed, eager to change the subject. What I meant to say was, I've decided that what I want to do now is start anew, to let go of my past, and I certainly can't do that by staying here. Are you going to come live with us, then? Frisk asked. I'm considering it, but I haven't. That's great! They cut him off. Exactly. Everybody will be so happy to see you. Well, maybe not everybody, but still. Can't you respect my decisions ever? Not if I disagree with them, no.
Oh, yikes.
Flowey grumbled something quietly before relenting. Fine. I'll go with you. Just give me a moment. He disappeared underground and reappeared at the edge of the cave, rummaging through a pile of tools and other objects he had gathered over the last year. Eventually, Flowey brought back a single item, a tiny, unadorned metal box that he carefully put down in the middle of the golden flowers. I can carry it for you if you want, Frisk proposed. Flowey glanced at them. I'm not bringing this back. They looked at it, curious. What's it for, then? He responded by opening the box, revealing its contents. an inverted gold heart locket. "Oh," Frisk said, recognizing Azrael's old belonging. "I want to say goodbye. One last time," he said softly. After pondering for a bit, Frisk reached for their back pocket and pulled out Kara's matching pendant. "I think you need this too." Flowey blinked, surprised. "You still have that? It's been more than a year." Frisk gave him a small smile. "Of course. You told me to keep it, so I wouldn't give it to anyone else." He shook his head, chuckling, and took the locket with a single vine. It didn't join the other immediately, however. After struggling a bit, vines being poor replacements for hands, he managed to open it. On one side of the locket was a photograph of a young boss monster alongside a human child, both smiling brightly. On the other was an inscription that simply said, "Best friends forever." "You know, that's not what it was supposed to say at first," he said eventually. "I wanted it to say best siblings forever, but Kara insisted that we replace siblings with friends. Said it rolled off the tongue better." The former boss monster sighed. "They weren't wrong, but I knew that the real reason they wanted to change it was because they didn't feel like they belonged, that they weren't a real part of our family. I used to wonder why." He scoffed. "So I foolishly gave it my all. I tried to be an even better brother, some way or another. I'm sure Mom and Dad were doing the same too. I only realized much later that that wasn't the problem. Kara, whatever the issue was, they kept it to themselves. They were never good at expressing their true feelings. Maybe in time, they would have opened up." Flowey lowered his head. "Or maybe they never cared in the first place. Whether they gave me their soul to save Monsterkind or to have revenge on humanity, we'll never know. I already accepted the fact that they weren't the greatest person a long time ago. I accepted it. So why—" His voice choked. "Why do I still feel so horrible?" Frisk, who had been silent until now, crouched down to pat the flower in an attempt to comfort him. After a while, Flowey tilted his head away. "I'm fine," he said. "Let's just get this over with." He closed the locket and put it in the box alongside the other. Using multiple vines, he carefully dug a small hole and buried the twin pendants within. "All right," he turned back to Frisk. Are you crying?" "Huh?" Frisk wiped the tears off their face. "That's strange," they said, confused. I am sad, but I don't think it's enough for me to actually..." "Ha! That means you're the crybaby now, not me!" "What? That's not fair. That one doesn't count." "Course it does," Flowey said with a smug grin. "And aren't you forgetting something? Isn't a certain someone waiting for you?" Color drained from Frisk's face. "Oh no." "Oh boy, I can't wait to see that happen." "Well, if I'm going down..." For Toriel to catch him late. "Well, if I'm going down, I'm taking you with me." "Nuh-uh, you're on your own." Frisk held out their arm before the flower. "Get on, or else I'll make sure that you won't get any pie for a long, long time."
Oh, yeah.
"You wouldn't." "I absolutely would." Flowey groaned, reluctantly climbing up the human's arms with his roots. "I'll get back at you for this, I swear." After making sure Flowey was well rooted on their shoulder, Frisk gave the cave one last look. They brushed their tear stains, thoughtful. but ultimately shrugged and bolted toward River Person's nearest post. They didn't have any time to waste.
Is that the end?
That is.
The river person is
Yeah.
still at the undergrad?
Yeah,
How is
apparently
this?
so.
That is cool.
It's
Also,
just like
it's an
Asriel.
inverted heart
Yeah.
for Asriel? I
Um,
guess.
maybe.
It was Asriel's.
Maybe
Yes,
they
it
were
was
both.
Asriel's.
That was great.
That is cool. That's good.
I like stories with Flowey. Flowey is a fun character to
Yeah.
So
vocalize.
interesting.
He is.
He's like the one voice I can kind of do.
That you can kind of do.
Yeah.
What's your Flowey sound like?
Oh no. You can't do it on command.
Sure.
Well, maybe
Yeah.
you can.
That's the hard part.
Hi there. I'm Frisk. How are you doing up there, Flowey?
Sounds the same in all of the stories. Actually, you do.
Flowey, are you okay? What you doing up there?
Okay, let you try.
Yeah, let's hear it. Flowey. So,
Like Asriel almost.
have you been
That
watering the
sounds like
flowers?
Asriel.
Some of these look a little dry,
I
Flowey.
thought Flowey was going to ask Frisk to go fill up the watering can.
Yeah, I guess I could do that. Is that what you want, Flowey?
Oh dear.
All right. Well,
I wasn't.
sounds like you're a little ruffled up there, Flowey.
Now you're cute to get annoyed.
Mine,
What is that from?
Waluigi? Is that Waluigi?
Yeah, that's what I was thinking.
Sounds like it.
Flowey is a little bit of Waluigi.
I cannot
Is
really
that
do
what it is?
any voices.
Well, I have about 4, and I just interchanged them all.
You
have
have,
some
you have
very-
good voices.
Oh, well, that's good. Flowey's a fun voice to be able to do.
Yeah, I can't do any voices that are, like, worth anything at all.
It's
Kara?
fine.
I can, like, if I tried, but I don't really know what my voice sounds like. Since Kara is, like, human and has normal voice, Frisk maybe
More
I
of
could
a voice.
as well.
you have a Kara voice.
Do it.
I
can't do any voices.
on command.
I might be able to.
Why do you think?
What do you mean do it on command?
Why do you
like-
think? Why do you think Frisk was crying at the end?
Because Kara? They have Kara with them?
I was thinking possibly.
I was guessing they had Kara with them.
I didn't think of that, but
I mean,
that
Frisk
sounds
was
very
crying
plausible.
and didn't know why exactly. And then Flower said, "You're the crybaby now," as if he was talking to Kara instead of Frisk.
Yeah, but I think he was. I don't know. Was
It was very.
Well, that was
People.
so that is the
Interesting thing.
yeah, that is if there's any sort of hidden thing
Mhm.
in the story, it's that.
Hidden Kara.
I didn't really notice it anywhere else.
So do you want to give your theories on that? I actually know the answer,
oh
but
On what? That?
well, just
Why
what's
Frisk
go-
was crying?
just what's going on there.
Ghost
But
Kara.
I mean, had Frisk done resets?
it sounds like it
presumably,
because Flowey said all the things that you and I did.
Yeah, because if Frisk had done the resets, they could have done genocide and then Kara take over
Oh,
and,
yikes.
like, for some reason, reset and do a pacifist, but Kara's in control.
Oh,
Kind of.
yikes.
okay.
Oh, yikes.
Well, it could have just been like a neutral route, but
I have a question.
well, wait a minute, we got to figure this
Wait,
part
yeah,
out.
I know.
Ghost Kara.
So,
Yeah.
All right.
has this author read How to Save a Soul?
Yes,
Aha.
I can confidently say yes.
Because certain
I can
things
play
sounded
chess tomorrow.
similar.
I can play chess tomorrow.
That is not related.
That doesn't work.
So I'll tell you if you want.
Okay.
So in this story, Kara is indeed with Frisk, but Frisk is unaware of it.
What?
So
That is cool.
so Kara has
Do they know
so
where
Kara
the
has
narration is
never.
coming from?
Maybe there isn't any.
Wow.
But yeah, I think in this story, Aldhere, I could be wrong, but I think in this idea, Aldhere had the idea that Kara accompanies Frisk, but has never made themselves known.
That is a really
But as Flowey hears about, as Frisk hears Kara, I'll get it right in a minute here. All right, eventually we'll get the right combination. As Frisk hears Flowey talking about Kara and
You mean
not being the best person ever, and then bringing out the locket that
Yeah.
Frisk has had and giving it to Flowey, who buries it and says goodbye one last time. Suddenly, Frisk is crying and doesn't know why.
Interesting.
That's so weird.
So it's meant to give you a bit of a bittersweet but hopeful ending that
Hey, at
all
least Kara's
three-
alive.
all
That's
yes,
a lot
exactly.
better.
All three are
Yeah.
there in some form or another.
That is
And
interesting,
Flowey-
this should spawn some
The
sequels.
chances
And
that
Flowey is apparently feeling some level of guilt.
That's
Daddy.
interesting.
the chances that Aldhere is going to make a good Save Azrael story is greater than the chances that Cobalt King
Oh,
will.
dear.
Maybe.
Well, this is also kind of. This was
Well,
already.
it's a
kind of
different
the same
style of
as-
story. And I feel like it could have sequels and, like, explore things like that more. Have a sequel where Kara, like, shows up.
Uh-huh.
What kind of a Kara is it?
Apparently a Kara with some regrets
There
and
are-
some
Every
And
Kara
not
has
as-
regrets, except Genocide Kara.
yeah. So
But,
we
like,
know
there's a whole
we know it's a
wide
Kara
range of
that
Kara.
well. So Flowey was thinking on whether Kara ever really cared,
Mhm.
whether they were just hating humanity so much they didn't care, and whether they were just ultimately a really bad person. But I think the tears give us an indication that Kara
Kara's on
maybe
the good side.
maybe cared a little bit more than
Flowey.
Flowey fears.
Well, for instance, in How to Save a Soul, Kara is all manner of fact and
You're just talking about Ranger
very
Kara now?
doesn't like knows a lot of facts and doesn't like to open up about anything and speaks in a very formal manner, whereas the Kara in your stories is more of just more normal,
Yeah.
more talks in a normal manner, is less sad, is more willing to have serious conversations and
Mhm, yes.
friendships and things like that, and is
It's
not
true.
so closed up. It's like a complete
Yeah, I don't know if I do. I don't know if I'm really following the correct Kara path there, but
it
it's
works.
yeah, it's a softer Kara,
So
no doubt about it.
There is a difference.
There is.
So-
You can certainly have whatever range you want. Like puzzles might be fun if you tried them. Had a narrator Kara that was all about genocide, and Frisk
That's
had
right,
to
yeah.
Frisk had
I
to
want to
fight
reread
against that one. Kara doesn't show up in Patchwork Soul that much,
No
but I think
spoilers.
well,
Don't
okay.
spoil.
I think it's okay, but I
Yeah.
mean, it'll be
Not
so
done with it.
infrequent that I think you just get the idea that it's sort of a angry, bitter Kara, which you sort of get even from chapter
About, like, good,
2.
fluffy.
It
fluff,
is.
fluff,
It's
fluff,
like
fluff.
No, but you still have to. You have to have
Something.
some
there is a plot. though.
antagonist and some crisis and such.
Yeah, there's mostly just weird things happening.
Toriel's
So
just
that's
like,
a-
oh
Oh, wow.
no, my school just blew up.
And I'm also trying
What?
to read
What story are you talking about?
You said crazy weird things are happening.
I can tell you that Toriel's school does not blow up in Patchwork Soul. If that
This
makes
is
you
off
feel
topic.
any better.
I think this story should have some sequels because
For one thing, Patchwork Soul takes
that's
place
the thing.
underground.
Okay.
Like,
Yeah, it's like another. It's
Partly.
the
it's
second.
pre-barrier
second run.
and post-barrier. It's post-barrier,
It's like-
then pre-barrier.
Don't spoil things.
This is chapter 2 again.
Yes, I know, but I wouldn't have known that when I was telling you whatever I was at earlier.
Well, I figured that you already knew.
I already.
Yeah, I know now.
And them who don't
Ow.
will.
Chest, do chest.
It'll be
do
okay
chest,
if you
chest,
spoil a
chest.
little bit of like chapter
Yeah,
2.
but that's like
Chest,
a big spoiler.
Daddy, you can make
Sorry.
a chest.com account so you can play
You just
Jerry.
spoiled it for everyone listening to this recording.
Oh no. Oh no.
Jerry
Okay,
just did.
if you haven't read Patchwork Soul, please don't listen to the previous 2 minutes.
Yeah, we just have where
Aldhere is wondering how Patchwork Soul got into his
Has
nice
he read
little
that?
story. Has he read that? I think
how do you know that
This
he's read?
story should go
How
on to
to Save
Archive
Soul?
of Our Own because
I think he
knows it.
yes, I think he has read it. I'm gonna go. I'm gonna say 90% yes. On that.
How do you know he has read How to Save a Soul?
Because that's one of his favorites.
Because I could some of the things like expanding your magic field.
Yeah.
Or things like that.
Yeah.
Always does sound sort of like that. It's a
So the story
It
should
does
go
good.
on Archive of Our Own.
Can I just say in case
Yeah, we're not
Wait, you
doing
wanna?
this in, like,
It should go on
studio.
Archive of Our Own. Why?
So I can kudos it. Because
That's
kudos
nice.
are great.
That's nice.
I'm just gonna say for all the people listening, we actually secretly get paid to advertise other
What?
authors and
What?
stories during this.
All right.
Yeah.
Wow.
So like that's why we
This
always
is like an
Pay sign.
unskippable ad in the middle.
yes.
I'd like to tell you now about audible.com.
No, but like all the time.
If you go to audible.com/Aldhere, then you'll get pretty much the same offer that you would get if you just went to the homepage, because it's really nothing.
What's
different.
audible.com?
Oh, well, let me tell you. Audible is the source of great audio books.
Ads in here.
You can hear
Like the Green
the
Emperor.
finest books
Wait, really?
ever
Yeah.
written
Ooh. Are there any
on
Undertale
Audible
books?
by... well,
Emily, do they have M%?
Probably.
Do
I
you
think
have
so.
it
I
on
don't
your
know.
Kindle?
It's on
Or
Mommy's.
the
On the Black iPad. Oh, yeah. Anyway.
Anyway, audible.com features some of the best authors with it. I'm hoping that if I do it for free, maybe Audible will start sponsoring me.
Oh yeah.
Hey, Audible, if you're listening, give me a call.
Yep. Sure thing.
Also, go to Squarespace to get a new website set up.
What are we talking about?
They've got dozens of templates for your own website where you can make your own Undertale fan site. That's squarespace.com.
Does that
And
mean
if you put in the-
paid one or something, Daddy?
And if you put in the code Coram Deo, then it will say that is an invalid code and you'll have to take it out again.
They can add in a flowy voice.
No, I think that's
I want to see his
That's
voice.
extra recording.
Okay, I
Dan's
think
voice
that's-
ads are
I think
great.
that's enough
No, Menton's
ads.
voice ads.
Okay.
That's perfect.
Thing.
Thank you for tuning in to this story.
Chest,
Wait,
do chest,
we need
chest,
to add a
chest.
lot of